Good morning, everybody. Welcome to December's Sharks4Kids Marine Science Google Hangout. My name is Joe Grabowski, and I have the awesome position of being Education Director with Sharks4Kids. For those who don't know what Sharks4Kids is, we're an education conservation site all about bringing shark conservation to the next generation. So we do that through adventure, we do that through outreach and education. If you haven't been to our website before, it's www.sharks4kids.com, where you're going to find all kinds of curriculum material to be used in classrooms, activities, games, quizzes, videos, interviews with experts. It's a great website. I highly suggest you check it out right afterwards. But today we have our Hangout. We like to do these once a month, and I'm very excited for today's guest, Cristina Zenato. She is joining us from the Bahamas. I'll give a little intro, and then she is going to take over with an awesome presentation for us today. So we do have classrooms joining us from Canada and across North America and the US. So welcome. I'll do a little introduction when we get to our Q&A portion. So Christina was born in Italy, grew up in the rainforest of the African Congo. She's made the Bahamas her home. She does a lot of diving there. She speaks 5 languages. She was also the first woman to ever connect a freshwater inland cave system to a saltwater ocean system. But she spends a lot of time with her sharks in the water. I believe she calls them her babies. Some say she speaks a 6th language known as shark. And she's the first woman to have ever put them in a state of relaxation called tonic immobility, these Caribbean reef sharks. And when she does that, she's able to work with them. She can do things like remove hooks from their mouth. And to anybody who's watching, it looks like the shark has fallen asleep right in her lap. So I think that's enough for me. Let's let Christina take over with her introduction.
All right, so I'm going to start with a share screen.
Yeah, absolutely.
Okay, entire screen. There it is. Oops. And let's see if it works. Do you see my first image?
I see your first image. It's a good one.
Beautiful. This is what people know me from. Good morning, everybody. My name is Christina. And like Joe said, I'm originally from Italy, but I've been living in the Bahamas for the last 21 years. A lot of people call me the shark lady, and I'm known very much for this atypical position that I keep the sharks in the palm of my hand. But I'm a little bit more than just a shark. So I want to share a little bit more about who I am. This is traditionally my office. This is where I go every day. So basically, I'm in the water. I have the privilege to live in a very warm country, so I'm under the sunshine. Even this morning, we have about 27 degrees Celsius, about 80 degrees Fahrenheit. So that's kind of like what I do. My inspiration comes from my dad. So this is a picture that I grew up with. And this is basically what inspired me to want to become a scuba diver. At the age of 8, more or less your age, I decided I will become an underwater scuba ranger, and basically I will go around the world telling people what to do or what not to do on the reef. And so I can say I kind of like developed a childhood dream to become the underwater scuba ranger. I love to be in the water, kind of like I do what it's called free diving, so I'll hold my breath and go swimming through the water, whether it's fresh or salt water. I use different things like monofins, bare feet, full fins, okay? And I have amazing encounters with all sorts of different kind of animals, like the manta rays that kind of like come and cruise around the Bahamas. I like to play in the water. So I have very good friends, photographers, and we do like cute little stuff like this one. So for me, the water is my life, is what I do for a living. But also my day off, I'm always in the water and I go play. And then I learn scuba diving and I keep learning. I keep taking courses and do all sorts of different things. For example, I love wreck diving and go exploring, do what it's called also technical diving. So I kind of like go inside the machines and see what has happened inside there. My 2 passions, my 2 most known passions are caverns and caves, and the other one is sharks. The Passion for them is opposite of my presentation. So I always wanted to have sharks for friends. I always wanted to have pets sharks. So my dream was to have sharks that I could swim with. And then when I moved to the Bahamas, I saw the sharks and I stayed. And then afterwards, I found the caves. But in this presentation, I will start with the caves and then finish with the sharks. And then so you can guys can ask some questions. This is my first cavern. I came here, it's called Ben's Cavern, when it was my dive number 11. And basically, that's where my passion for cave diving starts. So if you look at a cave, like in this picture, you guys can see all the pictures, right?
Yep, absolutely.
Okay, good. If you look at the cave, this is what you see from the surface. So it's kind of like intimidating. There's like there's a lot of rocks and a little bit of water, and people think, wow, you go in there, right? So if you're not familiar with what cave diving is, this is basically what you see. Or maybe some of them have like these big openings, but it's kind of hard to really see what's under the ground just by looking at the entrance. Some, like the ocean blue holes, all you see is rocks and basically the ocean coming and going. So as a cave diver, we look at the little entrance and we know what we can find underneath. Normal people will look at that and think, wow, that's really small. I can't believe there's something underneath it. Some of my exploration takes me far away. So in the Bahamas, I use like boats and, as you can see, carry all the gear to go and find what are called blue holes. And again, some of the blue holes are hidden inside the mangroves area. So this is where I tie in different passions. One of the things that I discovered while I went cave diving is, in order to have the survival of these beautiful caves or this beautiful entrance, I need to also go and find the mangroves. Mangroves are a very unique plant. I'm absolutely fascinated by them because they are actually plants that live in a salt water. And they're capable of using the salt water to set up roots and then sprout leaves even underwater and then basically conquer the land. So they're amazing, strong plants with roots. And if you can see, this is an underwater picture. They actually start making their leaves underwater. And they do what is called the sacrificial leaves. So if you look, even in this picture, there's a couple of yellow leaves. And what the mangrove does is sucks the water and then sends the salt of this water only to certain leaves and keeps the fresh water for the rest of the plant. And then these little sacrificial leaves die because there's too much salt water. And these places, these mangroves where I find the caves, are kind of like home to incredible fish life and incredible healthy reef. Like in this case, sea urchins and corals and fish. And so when I go cave diving, I go through these areas and find these absolutely beautiful places. They are also called nurseries. So they have a lot of small fish, in this case like little silver sides. And then they have like the seagrass, which is very, very important. People see that and I think, oh, I don't want to put my foot on that. But it's actually very important for the quality of the water and for the survival of all these animals, including when I go cave diving, little baby sharks swim around my ankles. So that's the reason why I said I'm going to start with the caves and then go into sharks, because as I love sharks and I start going cave diving, I found these amazing little creatures in the shallows, in the mangroves, where they basically go and find refuge and shelter. Sharks need the mangroves, like many other fish, for many years to use it as a home, as a shelter. Similar kind of like humans. We grow up as children into our parents' home because we can't just go out and be by ourselves when we're 5 or 6. So sharks do the same. They have these nursery grounds, the mangroves area, where they can live within each other, all these young sharks and all these young fish, before they can venture out in the open ocean. So they basically need to become a little bit stronger. So this is kind of like a funny picture because it really shows what these mangroves have. And I picked this picture is on top of the mangrove areas of the cave area, we collect fresh water. So the rainwater that falls down in the Bahamas collects on top of the salt water, and they combinedly live inside these mangrove areas. And as you know, we need fresh water basically for our survival. So in the mangroves now we have the nurseries, we have the caves, and now we also have the fresh water. So everything is very much tied in. The freshwater lens, as you can see in this picture, can be up to 30 feet deep, 10 meters of fresh water. These are places without mountains, without rivers, without glaciers, without lakes. So all our fresh water supply is below our feet. And so what we do as a cave divers, we go in and kind of like bring back images, but also information to connect what is the vital role of the fresh water in the cave, and then the cave next to the mangroves as nurseries. Some places are a little bit, tight. So as you can see, we use the special gears and special technique to go in. But you can also see how very clear the water is, how very clean the water is where we go. These caves have beautiful. So why do we cave dive? I mean, a little bit is obviously personal pleasure. They're beautiful places. For me, they're kind of like enchanted palaces. They can tell fairy tales, they can tell stories, but they also tell stories about the earth. So in this case, we know that these caves used to be dry. And because they were dry, basically the cave itself had, through water that fell through the tunnels, beautiful decorations that are called stalactites and stalagmites. So that's how we know that the caves actually used to be dry. And we love to swim through these incredible crystal palaces because they're absolutely stunning. We also discover a lot about the geology of the earth. It's like in this case, you see the red in this picture? Comes from the Sahara Desert dust. It's just an incredible journey. So the desert storms from the Sahara across the Atlantic push this dust through the wind, which mixes through the water, which drips through the terrain, and then comes into these formations and make this wonderful red coloration. So the caves are also a geology, it's like a gigantic geology book. They tell us the history of the earth, and they tell us if the earth is healthy, and they tell us if the earth is not healthy, and you'll see that in some of the pictures. So that's the reason why we go and explore and bring back this information, because they say, hey, look, this is very healthy, or wow, and this area is not healthy, we need to do something about it. So these images are a very healthy place, and it's actually a very well protected place. There's very much a relationship between what's below our feet and what we do on the top. So all these images that you see with this nice clear water are caves in the Bahamas. They're called the Crystal Caves of Abaco or the Crystal Caves of Grand Bahama. And it's like nice, clean water. And you can see like the beauty. It's almost like, it looks like I'm floating in air, just to give you an idea of that. So beautiful areas. Now, if you think some of these decorations grew maybe an inch a year, and you look, the diver, the size of the diver and the size of the decorations, it basically show also how many years it took to get here. We also have other histories in here, like we found fossils that tells us, who was on these islands before us, or what was on this island before us. In this case, crocodile teeth, so we have that, and we have tortoises and crocodiles' bones that are fossilized and hiding away in the cave. We also have kind of like interesting creatures. I didn't put all the creatures, but this is one of my favorite ones. It's called the lucifuga. It's like a blind cave fish, and it's born with tiny little eyes that don't work, and then as they grow, they basically drop the eyes. And you can shine as much light as you want on them, and they're not going to move because they can't see. But if you wave your hand through the water, they'll feel the water, and actually they move a little bit. So this is all things that we see underwater in our caves. And I do what it's called exploration. So basically I go in places that have never been explored before, or I'll see a little hole in the ground with the water, and I'll go, oh, I'm going to go inside here and see what's underneath. With the exploration, we do also what it's called mapping or survey. In this image, you can see I actually use a building meter to measure the distance, and so we find out where these tunnels go. Because sometimes we look at the entrance and you think, okay, the entrance is here, and we don't realize where the cave goes, and how far or how important it is to realize where it goes. And so we go and explore and find all these kind of like different places. Again, this is nice, clean water. And I'm showing you a lot of this because there's going to be a couple of images that don't have that. They're not easy places. Caves can be fairly dangerous environment. In the Bahamas, we have issues with tides. What you see right now, this is a siphon. That means this is a cave that is sucking a lot of water in. And obviously, we cannot go diving when the cave is siphoning. So we need to learn about the tide changes, how the water moves. Okay, we need the special gear, we need special lights, and we need the special training. And this is unfortunately what happens when we don't take care of the land above the caves. So if you notice all the other clear water, this is actually a cave where pollution has come through the land and has come through the water and basically has made the bacterial growth inside the cave, which normally is healthy, to these dangerous high levels. Dangerous for many, many point of views. As a cave diver, obviously you can imagine it's very difficult to navigate your way through this kind of visibility, but also dangerous because the water quality of this cave has been compromised. That means that people that live over this cave cannot use nor drink this water anymore. We actually did samples of this water and it has very much pollution and E. coli in it. So, and the project that Joe was talking about is on this map. So this is a cave. The first dot on the top is where the entrance is on land, and then the one on the bottom where you follow the line is where it comes out in the ocean. And as you can see, there's a lot of cave that goes underneath the land. And the visibility that you saw in this cave, this one here, is right underneath this land. So that means the management that has been done over this land has destroyed the water quality of the cave. So through the study of this cave and how this cave has been damaged, we were able to present this data to the Bahama National Trust. And so they now have extended the conservation of other caves that are still safe, like the ones you saw the pictures, so that nobody can build over the land where the caves are. So that is how the connection is between the caves, the mangroves, and basically the health of the ocean. Because if you notice, this cave, the water goes from the land to the ocean. And so it will go from the land through the mangroves, through all the beautiful nurseries that we have. But if now we protect the land over the caves, we can protect also the water that comes through the cave into the ocean, into the mangroves, into the nurseries. So that's how I tie all my work in. Ooh. And I prepared a little video. Let me see if I can. Oops, never mind. Sorry, my bad. Joe?
Yeah.
I think I did something.
Are you looking for your video? Is it separate from the slideshow?
No, here it is. Never mind. Got it.
Okay.
So here it is. So this is a video that I filmed, and it's like the little story from the land to the ocean kind of thing. And just like a couple of minutes shows the entire journey that I do and the water does. Tell me if you can see it. Can you see it?
Looks good.
Okay, so this is a land hole. This is the polluted cave, so the hole that we go in where the people live around it. And you can see all the pollution and the garbage that the people have thrown in it. And here you can have an idea. So I carry the tanks like in special places. We have a lot of gear when we go cave diving. And these are the crystals. They're not crystals anymore. They're covered in this orange bacterial growth, which makes it very difficult for navigation. This is what I see when I come out of the cave. This is my visibility. So what I do, I use a line. You see my hand coming through. And I have to hang on to it so I can find my way out. So this is still the cave under the land. That's the reason why it has so much yellow on it. Still the bad water quality. Now I'm swimming towards the ocean, but as I can swim, also can the polluted water. So that's where it happens. The water travels with the cave. Now we're getting towards the ocean, so there's more like sponges and sargassum and we always follow a line. So you notice in the video there's this line. I have always a line that I can follow in order to find my way out so I don't get lost. And that's when we don't go diving. So that's about the caves. There's way more, but I'm not gonna bore you with this. So I'm gonna move into my other passion, which are sharks. And as you understand now, why I started with cave is the survival of the sharks is very important, thanks to the presence, obviously, of the mangroves in the island and the water quality, and where the sharks can reproduce and basically grow up before they can come out in the ocean. The sharks that I primarily work with are Caribbean reef sharks, like the one that you see in the pictures. And my inspiration and mentor is Ben Rose. He's the gentleman that basically taught me how to be with the sharks. I learned from him about 21 years ago, and he has to this day remained my Uncle Ben, my inspiration. So I always like to do a little mention about Uncle Ben because he's a very, very beautiful person and has taught me so much about sharks. I have traveled the world to meet sharks. So I've been in South Africa to dive and to be with great whites. I experienced what it's called the breaching. So great whites can actually jump out of the water to eat the seals and basically capture their prey, like this great white is doing in this image. In my home in the Bahamas, we have so many sharks, so I have a chance to spend quite a lot of time with the lemons, like you see in these pictures, and the tigers, which is one of my favorite. They're absolutely super, super cute. We have quite a lot of healthy population of sharks. We have over 40 species of sharks in the Bahamas. So imagine how important the mangroves and the water quality is for these animals to basically grow and develop. I also had a chance to be in the water with the blue sharks, which I found very kind of like goofy looking and super cute. And I worked with some of them. They're very interesting. They're very curious and kind of like they love the interaction. They'll come up to the divers and I try to touch them and basically investigate with their nose. I travel to special places like Fiji. This is like a very unique place where they have over 80 bull sharks. And it's amazing because there's such a healthy population, such a healthy reef where the sharks are protected. The entire fish and the sharks are protected. So bull sharks, like many other sharks, have a bad reputation compared to what the animal is. And so what I try to teach people is shark is a word that encloses over 500 species of sharks. You know, some as big as the palm of my hand and some as big as a bus, and neither of them really has an interest in humans. No sharks has interest in humans. So same as with the bull sharks. Everybody think of bull sharks are so dangerous. So one of the questions people ask me, oh, what's the most dangerous shark in the sea? And I don't think they're dangerous. I think they just need to be understood and respected. But like here, as you can tell, I'm feeding a bull shark. So we feed the sharks so that people can come in and actually have a look at them and basically experience what it means to be in the water with sharks. So this is part of the work I do. This is black tips, still in Fiji. This is a little white tips, again, still in Fiji. And you can see how much life there is around. They kind of like to come in and come very close, and sometimes being able to give it a pet. So what I'm trying to show you is there's so many sharks that you can be in the water with, and it's just a matter of understanding how, when, and where. So instead of being just afraid of the word shark, what I try to tell to people is you need to learn about the word shark and what shark means. So the different species and all of that. This is my office. So these are the Caribbean reef sharks. I have about a population of 20 to 25 animals. I've been working with them for 20 years. And some of the sharks around these dives have been there for about 9 to 10 years. So we have quite a good, long relationship. We bring the sharks in front of the people. So we feed the sharks. Because without feeding, we wouldn't be able to see many sharks. And the people come down on scuba and actually can see the sharks swimming very close to them. So we do kind of like these encounters for people with sharks. For me, the most fascinating thing is right there in that picture is I'm standing in the middle of the sharks with food in my hand. So if you follow what you heard is I should be attacked. But instead, the sharks are just swimming in circles and waiting their turn in order to be fed. And if I don't feed them, they just basically keep swimming around. So when I feed them, I wear a special suit. It's made of chainmail, so it's metal. I call it liquid metal because it actually is as soft as a cotton, but is as strong as a steel. And that if the sharks accidentally bites my hand, I'm actually protected. And it's basically out of respect for the animal and for myself. So when I'm feeding the sharks, I always wear my special suit. So both the sharks and myself are very safe. I make special friends, you know, like groupers and eels and all of that. So it's a very unique environment. The animals learn to understand that we are not dangerous to them because we don't hurt them. So then they're comfortable with coming up to us and spending time with us. And this is what I have discovered thanks to the chainmail. The sharks love to come up to me and like to be pet. They come into my lap. Sometimes I have one shark and they just sit there. We just sit there on the ocean floor. Sometimes I have two. Sometimes I have three. It's a lot of shark love. And this is to demonstrate that also maybe we don't really know everything about sharks that we thought we knew. Sharks are known to be, people say they're mindless or they're vicious or they're killing machines or eating machines. And these are all labels that the sharks have been given. But then we go in the water and it's kind of like, wait a minute, I have 3 sharks coming up to me to be pet. And so it opens up a discussion about saying, well, what do we really know about sharks, or what do we really don't know about sharks? And I tell you, I personally know very little. And yet I spend in the water with them sometimes 5 to 6 hours a day. But 5 to 6 hours a day in a life of anybody when we live 24 hours is very, very little. So with these images, with what I do with the sharks is I want you to start trying to think about what shark really means and what sharks really are. And that's the reason why I really love the Shark4Kids program, because it teaches you a lot about the sharks. And the different species and the different behaviors and the different things that you can do in the water with them. So that's what I do. It's kind of like interact with the sharks and see what happens. It is kind of like a natural behavior. People call it tonic immobility, but I call it more a relaxed state. And the reason why is tonic immobility is a natural reaction of sharks to a stimuli of like stress or threat or something uncomfortable. These sharks, as you can tell, voluntarily come to me because I wouldn't be able to force 3 sharks to basically stay there with any force. They just come in and kind of like lay on my legs and stomach and hands and all of that. I don't really actually even need to touch them. They just sit there. And so I do things like giving them a kiss just to show people my love for sharks. And I share this with many other people. So as you can tell, as I work with one shark, the other sharks just basically swim around and rest comfortably and do all of that. Now I have a special girl. Her name is Foggy Eye. And now she has this kind of like habit of coming in and leaning into me backwards. It's like that's what she does. She just leans into me and sits on their fins. And again, after 20 years, it makes me question how much I know about sharks, and I hope it makes other people question and want to know more about sharks. So that's what I do. And this is my favorite picture. It's me and Foggy Eye on a dive. It's actually a selfie. I have to admit, I have a selfie with my favorite shark, and we just sit there together. And again, this shows you something. Look how close my face is to the shark's face. Now, I'm not saying everybody should go out and do this. It takes time, it takes knowledge, it takes understanding, it takes a good relationship. But here it is. Here's my childhood dream becoming a reality. I have sharks for pets and I have sharks for friends. And this brings me into something else that has nothing to do specifically with my work, but it has to do with you guys. If you have a dream and if you think, oh, I really want to do this, no matter what it is, I want to tell you that dreams do come true. If you follow your heart, if you follow your passion, if you listen to what really is making you happy and excited, dreams do come true. I am the proof of it. And sometimes people will say, well, that is so far-fetched, or that is impossible, and all of that. It is not if you work for it, not if you think about, okay, I want to do this, and how can I get there? And you do realize that basically there is a way to make sure that what you think maybe was impossible becomes possible. Because impossible actually is spelled I am possible. I'm possible. So this is the picture I want you guys to think. Think about what is your wildest dream, your wildest desire, what you want to become when you grow up, and follow it. Now, it doesn't mean it's going to come to you on a silver plate. I did realize a long time ago that to go cave diving, I need to learn math. I hate math. I speak 5 languages, 6, 7. I absolutely hate math. It's the worst subject ever. Physics, sorry, I shouldn't even say that. It's terrible. But I realized that if I didn't learn math, I couldn't prepare my gas and I couldn't prepare my tables that allow me to go cave diving to see the crystals and encounter the sharks that I so much loved. So I actually studied math like a crazy woman so that I could use math to prepare my gas, to prepare my tables, to go in the water to be with sharks, if that makes sense. So follow your heart and learn, what are the things that you need in order to get there. Because then you can share this with friends. I call this pictures in your tea with friends. And so I bring people down there and so they can get to know the sharks and have a conversation. This lady in the picture is actually Grandma. That's her name. Each shark has a different personality, has a different character, colorations, and all of that. And then, obviously, I share this with people. People come on the dive, you can actually touch the sharks. I'm pretty sure some of you have heard that the shark skin is rough and abrasive, and it's half true. The shark skin is smooth from the head towards the tail and rough when you come up from the tail towards the head. It's called in what we call dermal denticles, so the same materials of your teeth, and so it has a little bit of a soft way one way and actually rough the other way. So it's actually really incredible to touch. And there's just so many things about shark skin alone that is very incredible. Also sharks, not all sharks need to continuously swim in order to be able to breathe or ventilate. Most sharks actually have a system called buccal pumping, and they can open and close their jaws and basically pass the water through their gills in order to continue to ventilate. That's the reason why that shark can sit right there on the ocean floor without suffocating or anything. So that's how we do. So what do I do with sharks? A couple of things I do is I remove hooks. Sharks will be sharks, and so they will always go after the fisherman's catch, but sometimes fishermen go after the sharks. So like this big hook, this is 4 inches long hook. It's a big hook, and what I do is they come up to me, and I actually remove the hooks from their mouth. And what I noticed through the years is many sharks communicate with each other, and so sometimes new sharks just show up on my dive with hooks, and then I remove the hooks, and then the sharks are gone. They never come back because they don't belong to that group. And to this day, I've removed over 100 hooks. So again, this brings me back to another thing. Sometimes we think, well, you know, if I do something, it's not going to make a difference. I'm just one person. I'm just one kid. I'm only 8. You know, what I'm doing is going to matter. It does. Maybe it doesn't save the world, but maybe I saved 100 sharks, and maybe those 100 sharks maybe had a chance to reproduce, and then those 100 sharks that reproduced made more sharks. So each one of us with one little action can make the difference. You're never too young and never too one person to say, you know, I count, I make a difference. So little choices during our daily life, like saying, okay, I'm not going to buy shark teeth as a souvenir, or I will not eat certain kind of fish because I know they're dangerous for other species of sharks, or I can do without you know, balloons on my birthday party because I know the balloons then go in the ocean and kill the turtles and all that. So each one of us can make a difference, whatever it's removing hooks or using a recycled water bottle or refusing to buy, you know, shark souvenirs, for example. And then the other things that I do is I help researchers. So in this case, in this picture is a little bit out of focus because the sharks was not very comfortable, but the researcher is extracting DNA, so we kind of like figure it out where the sharks come from, who is related with whom. And this ties in back into the mangroves, because then we figure it out, where do the sharks go to reproduce, what areas do we need to protect so that the sharks can be safe and have their home and their schools before they go out in the ocean. So all of that. And we catalog sharks. To catalog sharks, we don't take fingerprints. We actually take pictures of their specific features. And this is one of my favorite. Her name is Stompy. You can tell her tail is a little bit cut off. So every time we see this tail, we know that's Stomping. So we do recognize our sharks from their features of their physical characteristic. And so this is my story. This is the image that I put a shark into vertical. Is I want people to stop and look at this thing and go, wow, I didn't know sharks could do that, or I didn't know a human could do that to sharks. And so my next questions, or your next question, should be, well, what else don't you know about sharks? And let me tell you about sharks. So that's the reason why, you know, we kind of like hold the future of the sharks in our hand. No pun intended. So this is like different version of basically putting sharks. This is a very unique picture. This is a picture from 1995. It was the first time I was actually, I didn't know what to do with the sharks. I had it in my hand, and so kind of like put a vertigo. So this is where it all started, with this kind of like funny picture. I've been invited to speak about sharks, so I went all the way to Singapore and China. The sharks face many dangers: pollution, overfishing, destruction of their habitat like the mangroves, and finning. There's a lot of people that like to eat shark fin soup. So we're doing a lot of campaigns about stop finning the sharks, which is a very cruel practice of cutting the fins off of live animals. So ended up I'm talking in Singapore again about sharks. These are signatures from people in China that saw the movie and kind of like were pledged to never eat shark fin soup ever again. This is a demonstration I did in another aquarium in Singapore, again, to show people that you can be in the water with sharks and feed them. And this is presentation, so I go and talk like with you guys and share my experience and all of that. And then I do something special. I teach people to do what I do. So I bring them down there and kind of like share that. You have to be a little bit older. You have to be 18 in order to be able to come down and take this course. But you can come and swim with the sharks when you're about 10. And in the Bahamas, we have a very special program. We do a school program in which we teach the Bahamians how to dive in 10th, 11th, and 12th grade to learn 3 levels of diving, and then they become employed and work as a scuba divers into the shark industry, into the diving industry, instead of becoming fishermen. So this is one of the groups of school that graduated, and 3 of the children that you see in this image are now working, and they're actually now instructors in this group. They start all here. Believe it or not, in the Bahamas, most Bahamians don't know how to swim, so we actually have to teach them how to swim, which is kind of funny because we're in an island, but most people don't know how to swim. So we start with the swimming lessons and we finish with the instructors. And so we teach from open water all the way. And this is the final image that I'm going to leave you with. It's basically me with my babies when I'm not feeding them. In this case, I'm free diving with them, and as you can tell, I'm not wearing the suit. Because you can be in the water with sharks without protection. It's a matter of, knowledge and understanding and knowing when and where and how. And that's the end of my little story and what I do in the Bahamas.
All right. Awesome, Christina. Thanks so much for sharing your story, and thanks for all you do for conservation, not just of sharks, but just regions in the Bahamas in general, like the mangroves and the caves. That's a really important story to share with kids this age, for sure. So thank you so much. That was awesome.
My pleasure. Should I put back the video?
Yeah, if you hit share screen again, we'll see you again. Hit the share screen button.
I don't see. Here it is. Share screen button. Coming.
That's okay.
Yeah. There we go. Nope. There we go. There we go. Hi.
Perfect.
I'm back.
Good. Well, I'm going to introduce the classrooms very briefly, Christina, and then we'll grab a couple questions from each. So we have some grade 3s with Mrs. O'Connor in Thunder Bay, Ontario, in Canada. There they are. We have Mr. Southwards, grade 3-4s in Kapuskasing, Ontario. We've got Mrs. Davies, grade 3s. They're also there with the student teacher, Mrs. Hammond. They're in Elora, Ontario. We've got Mrs. Barry's grade 3s in Weatherford, Texas, and Mr. Greenfield's grade 5s in Freehold, New Jersey. So let's grab some questions. Let's start with Mrs. Davies' class. Do you have 2 questions for Christina?
Who has a question? Not me.
Do you have a question?
Austin.
Have you ever found fossils of a megalodon?
Actually, I have, but not in the. Hold on a second.
Awesome.
Ring the bell. What camera?
Yeah, at the top of the computer. At the top of the computer.
How awesome!
Yes, I have, but not where I dive. I actually had to go somewhere else because the megalodon didn't live. The oceans were not the same way they are now. They were way shallower, and so the megalodon lived by the river estuaries that now are 50 miles offshore, in like 145 feet of water, like in 40 meters of water. Back then, those used to be the lagoon where the megalodon hung. So I found these, yes, in fossilized in the sand and in a clay, down at about 40 meters, about 50 miles offshore of actually the Carolinas, North and South Carolina.
Very cool. Let's grab one more question.
Emma, how many shark teeth have you found?
Oof. Thousands, and I give quite a lot away, and then I keep like a little bowl for myself. But I've been keeping sharks' teeth away for the last 20 years, so I would say thousands. Because sharks lose their teeth and then they just grow back, so it's better than us. But.
That's really cool.
All right, great questions. Let's visit Mr. Southward's class in Kapuskasing. Your mic is on.
Come stand up here, Logan.
Go Logan.
Hi, Christina. This is Logan with a question for you.
Hi, Logan.
What kind of sharks eat jellyfish?
What kind of sharks eat jellyfish? Now, you know what? I don't know how to answer the questions because I don't know every single sharks and all about sharks. So I have to plead ignorance to that one. Maybe Shark4Kids can answer that one for us.
We can look that up.
I need to look that one up. Do you know the answer, Joe?
I'll look that up while you're doing your next question.
Thanks.
Yeah, he's asking because we talked about the giant sunfish, the mola, and how they eat jellyfish because they have a thick mucus layer.
Right, and the turtles eat jellyfish too, but I'm not familiar with sharks eating jellyfish. So I really have to plead ignorance to that one. But like I said, there's 502 species, so I don't know everything about all the sharks.
Okay, can we have another one, Joe?
No, that was the only one that was. Another question?
Another question, yeah. Rihanna, come up to the front.
How old can sharks get?
How old can sharks get? It depends on the species, but some they think about 20, 25 years old, so pretty old for an animal.
Thank you.
She had another question actually that she was wondering how you get the hooks out of the sharks' mouths.
Many different ways. Some sharks just swim by. So this is some of the hooks that I pulled out, right? So like a hook about this big. Usually it comes into the shark's mouth like this. So sometimes what I do is I pull it out this way, or sometimes I have to go through their cheek and then pull it out this way. Some of them I put them to sleep, so I pet them and put them to sleep, and then I kind of like remove, and at the last minute when it hurts, they swim away. And some I have to, like I go in because it gets stuck right inside their mouth here. So depending on the shark and the technique. But one of the things I noticed is I have to retrain the sharks because when they have these big hooks in their mouth, they think that the food is going to hurt them. So they're actually not happy to come and eat anymore. So I have to slowly teach them that eating from me, it's okay and it's not going to hurt. And then they come in and let me remove the hooks. So some of them are really, really big hooks and they hurt quite a lot. So.
All right, well, I found an answer. What came up when I did a quick search was, and it's not surprising because it seems like tiger sharks will pretty much eat anything, but like tiger sharks are a species who don't mind the sting and will take a bite out of a jellyfish if the occasion arises. Yeah.
Something new today too.
All right, great questions, Mr. Southward's class. Mr. Greenfield in New Jersey, your mic's on.
Okay, we're coming. When you go diving with sharks, what are some of the equipment you have to wear on you?
Well, it depends. So for some sharks, I go on scuba, so I have to have the tank, the regulator, the fins, the mask, the wetsuit. And some sharks I go without scuba, so I'm only going to have the wetsuit, the fins, and the mask. So some sharks you can snorkel with or free dive with, and then some sharks you scuba dive with. So those are the usually two. With great whites, it's a mix. You're in the cage, and then you use a extended regulator. So you put the regulator in your mouth, but you don't really have the tank on you. So you stand it in the cage, and you have the regulator so you can stay on the water and watch them. In general, we like to wear a full suit so that the sharks basically recognizes as not, they don't look for because they're very attracted to white because it's the same color of fish. And so we wear a full suit, but anything, scuba, fins, mask.
All right, let's grab one more.
How many different species of sharks have you seen? How many different species of sharks have you seen?
I have seen about 20, 21 different species. So it's a long list that I haven't yet to see. I can't hear you anymore, Joe.
Sorry, sometimes I forget to turn my mic back on.
Okay, there you are.
Mrs. O'Connor's classroom in Thunder Bay. You can ask a couple questions if you have some.
Good morning. My name is Liam, and my question is, are there any certain sharks that you would not want to swim with?
Are there any sort of sharks that I would not want to swim with? Well, no. I want to swim with every single kind of shark. Are there sharks that maybe to swim with I will have to wait for the right moment and the right time? Absolutely. But personally, I would love to swim with all kinds of sharks. The one maybe you need to be a little bit more careful with swimming is the great whites, simply because they eat animals our size. But even the great whites, you know, you can actually go scuba diving with them and be in the water with them. I have a very good friend called Michael Rutson, and he actually swims with great whites and free dives with great whites. So again, it has to do with knowledge and understanding, and sometimes accepting that maybe that's not a specific good day to go in the water with sharks. But it's exactly like knowing when to go in the mountains skiing if it has just the snow has just fallen, and we know certain time of the year we can't go in the mountains because otherwise we'll create an avalanche. So it's the same thing with sharks. We can go in the water with sharks, and then there are days that we know we cannot go in the water with sharks.
Thank you so much. We have another question from Kate.
Good morning. My name is Kate, and my question is, how old were you when you started to work with sharks, and did you have to go to school?
How old was I when I started with sharks? I was 22. It was a very long time. I always swam in the ocean. I always been in the water. I always looked for sharks, and I never found them. And then when I was 22, I came to the Bahamas, and I did my school for a scuba open water course, and that's when I first was able to go in the water with them. Yes, I had to go to school to be in the water with them and to continue this job. So I did all my courses to become an instructor.
Thank you so much. We have to apologize, but we have to log off now, but we really enjoyed your presentation today. Thank you so much for everything. Thank you.
All right, Mrs. Kendall's class down in Texas. Thanks for being patient. It's your turn.
Okay. Ethan, real loud.
Morning.
Oceans have you been to?
He wants to know how many oceans have you swam in or been to?
I'm missing the Arctic and the Antarctic.
Okay.
And a few others, you know, like the Black Sea, the Baltic Sea, but more or less I swam in the Pacific, in the Atlantic, and the Mediterranean, so being kind of like different part of the different oceans. So.
Okay, cool. Do you want to put somebody here?
I have yet to hit the Atlantic, the Arctic, and the Antarctic, so that's on my list.
I think she answered that one. Hayden, what was your question?
Oh. Why do you go in the caves in the ocean?
I think she answered that one too. Andrea?
How long have you been doing this?
How long have you been doing this?
21 years.
21 years.
Yes,
Right.
I know I'm ancient.
Let's grab one more question to wrap things up from this class, from Mrs. Kendall's class.
Okay. Xavier, what was your question?
So, have you ever seen a megalodon?
I think she answered that question. Hayden?
Why do they have a fin in the middle of their back?
Why do they have a fin in the middle of their back?
Where do they have a fin?
in the middle of their back?
It's like a stabilizer. It basically allows them to be balanced in the water. It works the opposite of a keel of a sailboat, if that makes sense.
Okay, well, Christina, we're about to hit the hour mark.
Yeah.
So we should let the classrooms carry on with their day, but thanks so much for an amazing session. Your pictures, your stories, your conservation work is just amazing. I'm so glad we had this opportunity to share it today. What I'm going to do in just a moment is turn on the microphone so the classrooms can say goodbye and thank you.
Okay.
But before I do that, I was just wondering if maybe you had one last message or something you wanted to leave them with, maybe one thing to take away.
One thing to take away.
A lot of pressure at the last moment, I know.
Well, I think is what I already said, is follow your heart. Follow your heart, follow your passion. Remember that you have to put work into it, and sometimes it doesn't make any sense, you know, what we're trying to teach you. We're saying, oh, you need to learn this, but then one day it will just all tie in, all make sense, and become, you know, allow you to make your dreams come true.
All right, amazing. Well, you can check out more with Christina at her website, CristinaZenato.com. You can also check out more Sharks for Kids action at Sharks4Kids.com. Follow us on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook to keep up to date with all kinds of shark news and when new activities, interviews, and videos come out. Christina, again, thank you so much. It's been an awesome way to wrap up the year with our final Sharks for Kids Marine Science Hangout of 2015, but we'll be back in 2016 ready to go. I'm going to turn the mics on, let the classroom say goodbye, and thank you. Microphones are coming on. All right. Thanks, everybody. We're officially signing off.